In the heart of a city surrounded by dunes and extreme heat, a dream was born that, at first glance, seemed like a challenge to nature: to build the tallest building in the history of humanity. Not just taller, but so monumental that it would redefine what modern engineering is capable of achieving. A tower 828 meters high, made to literally touch the clouds. What drives someone to imagine something like that? For decades, the local economy had revolved around oil, but the leaders knew that this wealth was finite. They needed to reinvent themselves, create a new identity. It was not enough to import technology or copy foreign models. They needed to send a message to the world. A bold, clear, ambitious message. We are here, and nothing is impossible for us. And so the idea of the Burj Khalifa was born. But from the beginning, it would not be just a building. It would be a statement of purpose, a symbol of rebirth, a challenge to the impossible. The project was conceived as the heart of a new urban center, a vibrant hub that would bring together luxury, tourism, business, and lifestyle. A vertical city, a new mecca for travelers, investors, and visionaries. The decision was both strategic and symbolic. To capture the world's attention, something the world had never seen before was needed. Something that defied all notions of scale, engineering, and economic logic. The tower would need to be much more than a skyscraper. It would need to be a cultural icon, a new urban Everest. But how could something so extraordinary be built in one of the most inhospitable regions on the planet? Where the ground is sandy and unstable, temperatures exceed 50 degrees Celsius, and sandstorms are a common occurrence. There was no simple answer to this question. It required courage, ingenuity, and an unshakable belief in one's own vision. The project was officially launched in 2004, but the idea had been circulating behind the scenes long before that. It involved architects, engineers, urban planners, security consultants, and experts from more than 100 nationalities. Each brought to the desert not only technical expertise, but also hope. Hope of creating something that transcended borders, ideologies, and human limitations. And so, with the eyes of the world on a construction site in the middle of nowhere, the first foundation was laid. And with it, a promise. No matter how challenging the environment, humans are capable of transforming any landscape into a stage for their most audacious dreams. The Burj Khalifa was beginning to take shape, but it would still face battles against gravity, against the wind, against time itself. What was to come was not just a construction. It was a modern epic, and it was only just beginning. Before the first brick was laid, the engineers faced their first invisible enemy: the soil. Unlike cities like New York or Hong Kong, where foundations rest on solid rock, here there was no firm foundation, only sand, a treacherous, unstable soil shaped by centuries of wind and heat. Building something ordinary would already require caution, but a structure almost a kilometer high? That bordered on insanity. It was necessary to understand the behavior of the soil in depth, study it, test it, challenge its limits. There was no room for error. If the foundation failed, the entire building would collapse, literally. And no one had ever attempted anything like this on this type of terrain. This was new territory for engineering worldwide. The solution would come not from rocks, but from friction. Instead of supporting the structure on a non-existent bedrock, the engineers created a floating base supported by friction. They drove 194 concrete piles, each up to 50 meters deep. These piles did not grab the rock. They grabbed the earth itself, using the lateral resistance of the soil to support their weight. Above these piles, a gigantic reinforced concrete slab was built, almost 4 meters thick. It would be the foundation of the tallest tower ever conceived. To give you an idea, this foundation alone consumed 45,000 cubic meters of concrete, enough to fill 18 Olympic-sized swimming pools, and more than 192 piles were positioned with millimeter precision. Nothing could deviate from the plan. The process required extremely high-strength concrete. It was necessary to support not only the building's absurd weight, more than 500,000 tons, but also the effects of the scorching heat and humidity of the subsoil. The concrete was specially formulated to resist corrosion caused by the salt present in the soil of the region. Each load had to be tested. No truck could arrive with material that was out of specification. Meanwhile, the soil was monitored continuously. Sensors were installed to measure displacement, pressure, humidity, and temperature. Any anomaly could indicate failure. The foundation took months to build, and all the while tension was in the air. Any flaw, no matter how small, could have catastrophic consequences. But when the foundation was finally ready, one thing became clear. The impossible had been conquered. A solid foundation had been created on sand. And with it came the certainty that the project could continue. The Burj Khalifa was no longer just an architectural dream. It was now a living structure, rooted not in rock, but in human ingenuity. The next challenge? To lift tons of concrete to heights no one had ever reached before. To build the sky, one floor at a time. With the foundation complete, the challenge now was to raise the tower. And not just upward, far beyond what any other building had dared to reach. Each meter would be a battle against gravity, against extreme heat, against the logic that said, "This can't be done." But contrary to what one might imagine, the Burj Khalifa was not built with steel like traditional skyscrapers. The material chosen was concrete, a decision that shocked many experts. After all, concrete is heavier and more difficult to handle, right? But here, the logic was different. The steel would need to be imported in huge quantities, costing a lot and taking months to arrive. The concrete, on the other hand, could be produced locally, with total quality control. It was a question of practicality and survival. But it wasn't just any concrete. To reach unprecedented heights, a special, highly resistant mixture was created, with chemical additives capable of withstanding extreme temperatures. And what's more, it needed to be pumped upwards, to a height never attempted before. The system chosen was a set of high-pressure pumps imported from Germany, including the legendary Putzmeister. This machine set a world record by pumping concrete to a height of over 600 meters. And to prevent the heat from ruining the mix, the concrete was poured at night, with ice added to the mix. Each drop had to reach the top with the perfect consistency. To speed up the construction process, a system called jump form was adopted, a sliding form that allows the upper floors to be continuously concreted while the lower floors cured. It was a dance of precision and speed. The tower grew at a rate of one floor every 2.5 days, a dizzying pace for a structure of such complexity. But height was not the only problem. Winds. The tower would have to withstand violent gusts, which could reach over 150 kilometers per hour at high altitudes. A conventional structure would not be able to withstand it. The secret? A revolutionary structural system. Inspired by Gothic cathedrals, the buttress system was created. In the center, a super-resistant concrete core. And around it, 3 wings that project like flower petals. The shape was not chosen for aesthetics. Every curve, every retraction, every rotation was designed to break the wind vortices. The tower never presents the same face to the wind, which drastically reduces oscillations. It is as if it dances with the air. This aerodynamic shape was tested in wind tunnels for months, Thousands of simulations were carried out until the perfect balance was found. And so, with a structure that looked more like an engineering sculpture, the Burj Khalifa began to break world records one by one. Little by little, it left all the other towers behind. Each new concrete slab was a victory. Each meter conquered, a challenge to the impossible. And when the top finally approached, no one could believe it. It was really happening. The tower was no longer a project. It was reality. And it was ready to face the most extreme challenges on the planet. Building a tower almost a kilometer high in the middle of the desert would be, in itself, a feat worthy of history books. But keeping it standing, functional and safe in the most unforgiving conditions on the planet, that would require more than engineering. It would require genius. The heat in the region can easily exceed 50 degrees Celsius. Humidity is extremely high. Sandstorms can come out of nowhere, and the winds at high altitudes can become violent. Any flaw in the design would mean not only financial loss, but also the risk of death for thousands of people. Starting with the fire protection system. In tall buildings, evacuating quickly is a challenge, but in the Burj Khalifa, it was almost impossible. The answer was to create refuge areas every 25 floors, with fire-resistant walls and their own ventilation systems. In case of an emergency, people do not descend all at once, but rather go from safe area to safe area. The emergency stairs are pressurized, preventing smoke from entering. But the most surprising thing? An armored elevator, designed specifically for use in evacuation situations, something that no other tower in the world had until then. It can travel 138 floors in the event of a fire, protecting occupants with cutting-edge technology. And what about lightning? A structure that tall is, of course, a target. That's why the entire building is protected by a complex Faraday cage. Hundreds of sensors capture electrical discharges and direct them safely to the ground. A silent spectacle that takes place dozens of times a year, invisible to visitors. The building's air conditioning is another monumental challenge. To cool so many floors in such a hostile environment, 2 external air conditioning plants were built. They use chilled water at -3 degrees Celsius, pumped through kilometers of pipes, to maintain the internal temperature at comfortable levels. The tower consumes almost 1 million liters of water per day, not only for human use, but also for air conditioning. And how to pump all of this upwards? The solution was to create a system of intermediate tanks. The water is sent in stages, from the ground to the first tank, then to the next, and so on. An almost organic system, beating like a mechanical heart along the tower. The elevators are another extraordinary feat. There are 57 in total, 8 of which are high speed. Some have 2 floors, an upper cabin, and a lower one to transport more people simultaneously. The visitor elevators operate on the local express system. They quickly ascend to the top, stopping only at key floors. During peak hours, thousands of people can circulate without congestion. The building's external cladding was also designed to withstand the elements. It consists of 26,000 double-glazed panels with a metallic layer, capable of reflecting more than 70% of the sun's heat. It took more than 2 years to install the entire facade. Each panel was assembled as if it were part of a living skin, adapting to the curves of the structure, allowing slight flexibility to withstand wind oscillations. With all these systems working together, the Burj Khalifa is not only tall, it is resilient. A vertical fortress prepared for the worst-case scenarios. A work that does not simply exist, but survives every day against all odds. When the last piece was installed, the Burj Khalifa was not only the tallest building in the world, it was the physical symbol of an almost impossible ideal. The human capacity to transform a dream, no matter how absurd it may seem, into a concrete reality, visible from the horizon. The official inauguration took place in January 2010, with a spectacle of lights, fireworks, and projections that was watched live by millions of people around the world. At that moment, it was not just a tower that was being celebrated. It was a historic achievement. A new era in engineering and architecture had begun. Nothing would ever be the same again. But the Burj Khalifa was not just a symbol. It was designed to live. Inside it, there are luxury hotels, residences, offices, restaurants, convention centers, and shopping areas. It is, in fact, a vertical city, a self-sufficient organism that breathes, pulsates, and moves. At its peak, it is possible to see the horizon more than 90 kilometers away, an almost divine perspective. On the 148th floor, there is the highest observatory on the planet. Visitors from all over the world wait in line just to experience the silence and vastness of the desert seen from above. Many are moved, some cry. There, time seems suspended. The feeling of smallness in the face of immensity is inevitable. And that's what makes the Burj Khalifa so powerful. It's not just a technical marvel, it's an emotional experience, a reminder that human ambition knows no bounds. That even in the most adverse conditions, it is possible to create something that defies logic, that inspires generations, that changes the course of an entire city. The impact was immediate. The tower attracted investors, tourists, companies, and artists. It became a postcard, a film location, and inspiration for projects on other continents. It elevated the city to the status of a global reference in innovation and architecture. And above all, it proved that the impossible can be just a matter of perspective. For years, other countries have tried to beat the record. Some have come close. Others have promised even taller towers. But none have managed to reproduce the same effect. Because what makes the Burj Khalifa a unique monument is not just its height. It is the sum of all the barriers overcome. Every technical detail, every bold decision, every risk taken. It has become more than a building. It has become a metaphor, a beacon of ambition for a world that sometimes forgets its own potential. The Burj Khalifa is living proof that when the vision is clear, the courage is real, and the will is unshakable. Not even the sky is the limit. And in the end, it doesn't matter how tall it is. What matters is what it represents. The audacity to dream big, and the courage to build that dream, one floor at a time. If this story inspired you as much as it inspired us to tell it, don't forget to leave a like. It helps us to continue bringing you stories that make you feel. Comment below. What impressed you most about this incredible construction? We really want to hear your opinion. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any stories like this. There are a lot of powerful things coming. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.